So I'd just like to begin by acknowledging that we're coming to you from the unceded territory of the Tsleil-Waututh, Squamish, and Musqueam people, and that we are grateful to be able to live, work, and play on this territory.
All right, should we
get started? So I'd just like to begin by acknowledging that we're coming to you from the unceded territory of the Tsleil-Waututh, Squamish, and Musqueam people, and that we are grateful to be able to live, work, and play on this territory. And I'm Loretta Richardson. I'm a teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing, recently retired after 40 years. And I'm just helping with this presentation today.
And I'm Sarah Chodas. I'm a teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing at the Children's Hearing and Speech Center. I'm currently a team lead for the center-based program, and I've been here for just over 11 years.
And I'm Jessica Costello. I've been at the Children's Hearing and Speech Center for 2 years now, and I'm the team lead of the itinerant program. I'm also a teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing. So we just want to mention that the presentation is also being recorded and that we would love to have questions. And if you can just put them into the chat, then we will be able to answer them at the end of our presentation. So our agenda today, we're going to cover what is a teacher of the deaf. We're going to cover who do we service, what jobs, what does a typical day look like. We're going to go over some of our videos. We're going to talk about why we decided to become a teacher of the deaf, what is required, and what is the Children's Hearing and Speech Center of BC.
Great. So the most important question to answer first is, what is a teacher of the deaf? So a teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing is someone who provides service to students who have hearing loss of varying degrees. They might wear hearing aids, they might wear cochlear implants, they might possibly not have any assisted devices at all. And we service them because often these students need help with the development of their auditory, so their listening skills, their speech skills, their language skills, sometimes their academic skills, and also help with their social and emotional skills. You can change the slide. Oh, this is Loretta.
Is this me? My apologies. So who do we service? We are a program primarily for children with hearing loss. And so children with a range of hearing loss, from hearing on one side and not very severe to hearing loss on both sides, in both ears, and quite profound. And as Sarah mentioned before, these children may wear hearing aids, they may wear cochlear implants, they may have, if their middle ear is impacted, may have a bone-anchored hearing aid, or if their hearing aid, depending on their hearing loss, some children do not wear devices at all. We work with children from the time they're identified at usually 2 months, 2 to 3 months, and all the way through to high school graduation. So we have an early intervention program, we have an early learning program at our site, and there are other programs who also have early intervention and center-based programs for 3- and 4-year-olds. We also serve elementary and high school students, and children who are in elementary school and high school can be either in self-contained classes, like at the School for the Deaf, the BC School for the Deaf, or at our center. We sometimes have classrooms of school-age children. And then students can also be seen who are integrated into typical classrooms with itinerant support. And those students can be placed either in public schools or in private schools throughout the province. Next slide.
Okay, so what jobs can you do with a teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing training? So teachers of the deaf can work in a variety of different settings. The first one being an itinerant teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing. So what does an itinerant teacher mean? Currently, that's my role at the center. And that means that you're traveling to mainstream schools to support students who have hearing loss. You can also be working in an early intervention. You can also be working with students in a signing program like at a deaf school. And you can also be working in a hearing loss resource room within that school.
So teacher of the deaf working in our First Words program or any other early intervention program is working individually with families who have infants and toddlers with hearing loss. In British Columbia, every child with hearing loss who's identified at birth qualifies for support from a specialized agency. And in British Columbia, there are 3 specialized agencies in the Lower Mainland, and Children's Hearing and Speech Center is one of them. The purpose of early intervention, regardless of what program a family enrolls with, is to provide parent education, support, and training during this critical language learning period. The teacher of the deaf meets with each family and their child for 1 hour on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, depending on the need of the child and the family. Sessions provide the family with information about their child's individual hearing loss, the use of their amplification, and strategies they can use at home to foster optimum speech and language development. Parent questionnaires, interviews, and observations are used to regularly assess the child's development in all areas with special attention to communication and speech and language. The information from these assessments is used to develop individualized family service plans. The therapist and the family develop these goals together, and these goals guide their sessions moving forward. The teacher uses play, songs, book reading, and other strategies, conversational strategies, to teach the family how to support their child's speech and language development throughout their day in daily routines and play by all members of the family, so that the child gets their best chance of having age-appropriate communication skills when they enter kindergarten. The teacher also liaises with any other professionals that might be involved with the family. This could include the audiologist, infant development program, or child care centers, or any other professional that might be involved with a child, particularly if that child has complex needs. Next slide.
Right. So a teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing can also work in a program for children that are around 3 or 4 years old. As Loretta said, there are 3 agencies that have this available. And in ours, we call it the early learning program. So a teacher of the deaf working in the early learning program would be making sure that the children's amplification devices are working. So the day usually starts with a hearing check to make sure that the batteries are working, or that there's nothing else wrong with the cochlear implants or hearing aids. They provide language and listening opportunities all throughout the day, and make sure that those are provided as much as possible. They lead language and listening focus circles. So in our program, each class has about a 30-minute circle a day where we focus on language and listening and developing these skills around the themes that we're focusing on for that month. The teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing helps to create and implement the child's individualized family service plan. This is a document that's created with the child's team. So this includes the SLP and the family and other members that the child might need as part of their support team. And we create goals and make sure that these children meet goals, and we benchmark them throughout the year, and communicate with the family to make sure that they're aware of their child's progress. We also communicate with other team members. There might be team members outside of the centers that we need to communicate with, like occupational therapists or physiotherapists or behavior consultants, so that they are constantly in the loop and aware of how the child is progressing, and then we can ask for support from them as well. And then as the children transition out of our program, which is our goal, we make sure that we meet with professionals so that we know that the child has a smooth transition onto the next school, whether it be a mainstream school or a private school, so that we know that that transition is a smooth one and successful. Next slide.
Perfect. So another kind of typical day for a different position would be for the itinerant teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing. So as an itinerant, you're going to be working in multiple different school settings. So that could look like traveling to 3 or 4 different schools in a day. You're also going to be working with multiple different grades. So you'll be working with students all the way from kindergarten to grade 12. You'll be tailoring lessons to best fit the goals for that specific student. And that will also be connected to creating an individualized education plan, or an IEP for short. So in creating that IEP, you're going to be coordinating with a lot of different people. That's going to be people on the school staff, parents and teachers, but then you could also be consulting, just as Sarah mentioned, either it could be occupational therapists, there's an audiologist typically, and maybe behavior consultants could be involved too. Again, you're going to be connecting with the audiology team for the best equipment for that student. So that could be their remote microphone system, their hearing aids, their cochlear implants, whatever assistive devices they are using currently. And then you're also going to be checking and addressing any of those issues weekly most of the time, to make sure that they're working in the classroom and that they're working daily for the child. Great. Okay, so we have some videos to share with you. They're made here at the Children's Hearing and Speech Center. So the first video is more about what we do, who we are. And then the second video is kind of why we became teachers of the deaf. So let's start with the first one.
The Children's Hearing and Speech Center is a program for children with hearing loss, and we serve children from birth through high school graduation. Our sole mission is to teach children to listen and talk so that they can be whoever they want to be and be successful in any environment they choose. We have 3 distinct programs within the center. We have an early intervention program, which we call our First Words program. That program serves families with infants and toddlers from birth to 3 years old. The purpose of that program is to teach parents the skills they need to develop listening and spoken language in their children. In our center-based program, we have 4 classrooms. All of our classrooms are taught by teachers of the deaf and hard of hearing with licensed early childhood educators to support them. All of the children in our classroom settings are pulled out once a week by a speech-language pathologist for individual speech and language therapy. We also have an itinerant program that serves children who are enrolled in other independent schools throughout the province. We have itinerant teachers who visit those children in their home schools and provide speech and language support as well as academic support. We also have an outreach program that serves children who are in independent schools in more remote areas. Our children have very decreased access to sound when they don't have their devices on. When they're wearing their devices, that's when we really need to give them the practice and the skills that they need in a much more intense way that they need to be successful when they go into a regular classroom.
Well, I always said that Children's Hospital gave Matthew hearing, but Children's Hearing actually gave him spoken language.
Going through the center here and the programs and dealing with a very strong professional staff, it's given us hope that Matthew will succeed in life and fulfill any opportunities that he wants to pursue.
I think the Children Hearing Speech Center helped me because without me going here, I wouldn't be able to have these life skills now.
When a young family comes through the door, we take a walk down the hall. And what really gives them hope is when we walk into a classroom and there are children laughing and singing and talking and doing all of the things that any preschooler would do. I know that their day has changed because they were able to see what we do here. That's what really gives them hope.
Perfect. Okay, and then we'll watch the second one.
When I started teaching, I taught in a typical classroom, and I was a grade 2 teacher with many children that had varying needs. I got to a point where I was feeling frustrated after a few years because I felt like not a lot of their needs were being met. And at the time, I knew someone who was a teacher of the deaf, and I spoke to her because she had mentioned that there was such a great need for teachers of the deaf. The flexibility of the schedule really appealed to me. Working one-on-one really appealed to me. Working with small groups really appealed to me. And knowing that there was a chance that I'd feel like I could really make a change in the student's life.
It is springtime, it is springtime. Bunnies hop, bunnies hop.
You get to build such a bond with the kids that you might not necessarily always get in a general classroom teaching position. This building and the team and just the comprehensive roles all within one spot is such a blessing, and I think it's something that you don't get to see in Canada education very often. So being part of a team that collectively feels the same way that I do is rewarding in itself. And it's right on the West Coast. It's a beautiful city with beautiful people here, so it's a pretty natural choice to want to be here every day.
Staff at Children's Hearing and Speech Center are highly motivated and thoroughly enjoy working with children who are deaf and hard of hearing. As you've heard, being a teacher of the deaf is rewarding and fulfilling. If you'd like to learn more about being a teacher of the deaf or about our organization, please contact us.
Just have to put it back into slideshow. There we go. All right. Okay, so why did we decide to become teachers of the deaf? I think you heard a little bit of that in our video, but for myself, I decided to become a teacher of the deaf due to the fact that I personally have hearing loss, a bilateral moderate to profound hearing loss that I grew up with all my life. So I had a firsthand experience with having an itinerant teacher of the deaf support me in my public school setting all the way up until grade 12. I also really love the flexibility that this job offers, and not only in communication, but in scheduling and working with the students one-on-one is really, really rewarding. It's special education focused, so you're working with lots of different teams with different positions, so audiologists, LOTs, regular classroom teachers, principals, and it's language and listening focused.
Right. And again, as I said in the video, I knew someone who was a teacher of the deaf when I graduated with my teaching degree, and I taught for 5 years and then just realized that I was looking for something a little bit more The fact that teachers of the deaf often work one-on-one with students, they sometimes work in small groups, was really appealing. I really liked the flexibility of the schedule. As an itinerant teacher, you can kind of choose your schedule depending on obviously when the students are available. Developing relationships with families was something that I knew that I would really enjoy doing, and feeling like I could make a difference in these kids' lives. And from the start of my sort of post-secondary degree, I always had a strong interest in language. I took quite a few linguistic courses in university, so it was something that had interested me from the start. All right, so if you want to be a teacher of the deaf, what is it that you need to do? There are actually 3 programs in Canada. We've listed 2 here because I attended UBC and Jessica attended York University. So I'll talk a little bit about UBC and she can talk about York. The 3rd one is in Halifax. And if you'd like to have more information on that, you can look it up on Google and find some information there. So at the University of British Columbia, it's a master's program. It's 2 years. Right now, it's all online, which makes it easily accessible to anybody, really. And it qualifies for the BC Loan Forgiveness Program. And there's a link there, but if you search UBC and Masters of Deaf Education, you'll find more information there as well.
Yeah, so I went to York University, which is in Toronto. It's actually a bit north. I would say like York area, so it's North Toronto. It's a full-time program for 1 year, and then it can be a part-time program for 3 years. Luckily in Ontario, the tuition is free, except for the cost of some audiology equipment and your books. And the program is offered in a hybrid situation. So you would take most of your courses actually online, but there are some requirements where you have to be in person. And then the 3rd program that we mentioned on the East Coast is at Mount St. Vincent University, if you want to look that up as well.
Okay, just I think you've got a lot of information about who we are in the video. Just going to recap a little bit. CHSC, Children's Hearing and Speech Center, is one of several organizations that provide support for deaf and hard of hearing students and children throughout British Columbia. This program was established in 1963. A small group of families were looking for a spoken language rather than a sign language option for their children and set out to look for a teacher. They found a teacher with the necessary skills, and together that teacher and those families started a program. So to this day, we continue to be mandated by the mission of providing a spoken language option for children who are experiencing hearing loss. As mentioned before, we serve children from birth through high school graduation, which I think makes it, for us, it makes it possible sometimes to have these very long-term relationships with families, which I think is an added benefit to being a teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing. As we mentioned earlier, our First Word program focuses on the first 3 years of life, and families are seen either in their homes through Zoom, as well as coming into the center for in-person visits. The program also provides some group sessions for families so that they can come together to socialize and support each other and learn from each other. Our center-based program has 4 classrooms for children who are 3 and 4 years old. And since we created the video, we have transitioned that program into an inclusive program so that all of our groups contain both children with hearing loss and children with typical hearing. Teachers of the deaf are responsible for providing the programming for those programs and are supported by some very highly trained early childhood educators. As mentioned in the video, each child with hearing loss is also supported with individual pull-out sessions by a speech language pathologist. Every child has an individualized family service plan, which is developed with the speech pathologist, the teacher of the deaf, and the family. And those goals are what guide the program individually and as a group for the children to make sure that their communication needs are being met. And with the goal of having them ready for kindergarten with age-appropriate speech and language skills. From time to time, we do have a group large enough who require an extra year, and we have the ability to provide a kindergarten program which follows the BC curriculum. And that program also would be run by a teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing with early childhood educators to provide support, and also as speech language pathologists supporting each child. Our itinerant program, as Jessica mentioned, provides support to deaf and hard of hearing students at independent schools throughout British Columbia, either in-person visits to the school or for schools that are outside of the Lower Mainland. We also support students in schools through Zoom. And the teacher of the deaf supports not only the students' individualized education plan, but also helps the school by training staff, providing in-service, helping with equipment. And I think one thing when you're an itinerant teacher, you sort of never know exactly what's going to happen when you show up at a school. You might need to troubleshoot equipment. You might need to help with a report. You might actually get to work on other things. So it's a really varied and interesting sort of job with lots of possibilities for thinking on your feet. We also have an audiologist on staff that is able to provide support for children throughout the program. So all the way from infants through high school students. And our audiologist is able to do hearing testing and to fit and dispense hearing aids, and also provide individual family counseling and education around amplification and the child's needs, because listening devices are really a core component of a child's ability to succeed, because access, it all starts with access, and the better a child hears, the easier it is for them to acquire spoken language.
All right, so this is a time for you to ask any questions if you have them. You can type them in the chat, and then there's the contact information for our particular center. If you have any other questions that you'd like to ask, the phone number is there, or the email address is also there. So we'll just maybe wait a minute or two, and if not, we will finish.
I might just stop the share now, though, if that's okay. Perfect.
All right, well, I think that's probably it. Thank you for your time today. And again, if you would like to follow up, feel free to call us and contact us, and we can help you with anything that you need help with.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Follow up, feel free to call us and contact us, and we can help you with anything that you need help with.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.